Chapter 2 The Pool of Tears. Curiouser and curiouser, cried Alice. She was so much surprised, and that for the moment she quite forgot how to speak good English. Now I'm opening out like the largest telescope that ever was. Goodbye, feet. But when she looked down to her feet, they seemed almost out of sight, and they were getting too far off. Oh, my poor little feet, I wonder who will put on your shoes and stockings for you now, dears. I'm sure I can't be able to. I shall be a great deal old to fall off no trouble myself about you. You must manage the best way you can, but I must be kind to them, thought Alice, or perhaps they won't talk the right way I want to go. Let me see. I'll give them a new pair of boots every Christmas. And she went on blaming herself how they could manage it. They must be going by the career, she thought, and how funny it seemed, sending presents to one's own feet, and how odd the directions it would look. Alice's right foot, her throat near the fender with Alice's love. Oh dear, what nonsense I'm talking. Just then, her head stuck against the roof of the hall. In fact, she was now more than 9 feet high, and she at once looked at the little golden key and hurried off to the garden door. Poor Alice! It was as much as she could do, lying down on one side to look through into the garden with one eye. But to get through, more hopeless than ever, she sat down and began to cry again. You ought to shame yourself, said Alice. A great girl like you, she might well say this, to go on crying in this way. Stop this moment, I tell you. But she went on the same, shedding gallons of tears until there was a large pool around her, about 4 inches deep and reaching half down the hall. After her attempt, she heard the pattering of her feet in the distance. She hastily tried her eyes and tried to see what was coming. It was the White Rabbit returning, speedily dressed with a pair of white gloves in one hand and a large fan in the other. He came fronting along with a great hurry, murmuring to himself at once, "Oh, the Duchess, the Duchess! Oh, won't she be savage if I keep her waiting?" Alice felt so desperate that she was ready to ask for help of no one, so the rabbit came near her. She began, in a low, timid voice, "If you please, sir." The rabbit started violently, dropped the white gloves and the fan, and scurried away into the darkness as far as he could go. Alice took the fan and gloves, and as the hall was very hot, she kept fanning herself all the time when she went on talking. Dear, dear, how queer everything is today, and yesterday things went on just as usual. I wonder if I've been changed in last night. Let me think. Was I the same when I got up this morning? Or I almost think I can remember feeling a little different, but if I'm not the same, the next question is, who in the world am I? Ah, the great great puzzle. And she began thinking all over the children she knew that were on the same age as herself, to see if she could have been changed into any of them. I'm sure I'm not Ada, he said, for her hair going to large wrinkles, and mine is golden and wrinkless at all. I'm sure I can be Mabel too, for I know all sorts of things, and she knows such very little. Besides, she is she, and I'm I. So, oh dear, how puzzling it all is. I'll try if I know all things I used to know. Let me see. 4 times 5 is 12, and 4 times 6 is 13, and 4 times 7 is... Oh dear, I shall never get to 20 at this rate. However, the multiplication table doesn't signify. Let's try geography. London is the capital of Paris, and Paris is the capital of Rome, and Rome is... No, that's all wrong. I'm certain. I must have been changed with Mabel. I'll try and saw how Dot Little. She crossed her hand on her lap as she was saying lessons, and began to repeat it. But her voice sounded hoarse and strange, and the words did not come the same way they used to do before. How Dot Little Crocodile improving his shiny tail, and to pour the waters of the Nile on a very golden scale. How triumphantly he seemed to grin, how neatly spread his claws, and welcome little fishes in with gently slimy calls. I'm sure those are the right words, said poor Alice, and her eyes filled with tears again as she went on. I must be Mabel after all, and I shall have to go and live in a pooky little house, and have to snakes with no toys to play with. No, it was so many lessons to learn. No, I made up my mind about it. If I'm Mabel, I'm staying down right here. It's no use there putting their heads and saying, "Come up again, dear." I shall only look up and say, "Who am I then?" Tell me that first, and then if I like being that person, I'll come up. If not, I'll stay down here till I'm somebody else. But oh dear, cried Alice, with a sudden burst of tears, I do wish they put their heads on. I'm so very tired of being here all alone. As she said this, she looked down at her hands, and was surprised to see that she had put on a rabbit's little kid's glove while she was talking. How can I ever done that? She thought. I must be growing small again. She got up and went to the table to measure herself, and found that, as nearly as she could guess, she was now about 2 feet high, and was going on shrinking rapidly. She soon found out the cause of it was the fan she was holding. She dropped it hastily, and just in time to avoid shrinking altogether. That was a narrow escape, said Alice, a very good deal frightened at a sudden change, but very glad to find herself still in existence. And now for the garden. She ran with all speed back to the little door. But alas, the little door was shut again, and the little golden key was lying on the glass table as before. And things are worse than ever, thought the poor child, for I was never so small to do this before. Never, and I declare it's too bad. That is it. As she said these words, her foot slipped, and in another moment, splash! She got up to her chin in salt water. Her first idea was that she had somehow fallen into the sea, and that is the case. I'll go back to the railway, she said to herself. Alice had been to the seaside once in her life, and had come to this general conclusion that whenever you go to English coast, you find a number of bathing machines in the sea, some children digging in the sand and wooden shapes, and then a row of lodging houses, and behind them a railway station. However, she soon made out that she was in the pool of tears where it had wept before she was 9 feet high. I wish I hadn't cried so much, said Alice, as she swam about, trying to find her way out. I shall be punished for it now. I suppose by being drowned by my own tears, that would be the queerest things, to be sure. However, everything is queer today. Just then, she heard something splashing out of the pool a little way off, and she ran nearer to make out what it was. At first, she thought it must be a reckless or hippopotamus, but then she remembered how small she was now, and she soon made out it was only a mouse that slipped in like herself. Would it be any of use now, thought Alice, to speak with this mouse? Everything is so solved away down here, and that extra thing is very likely it can talk. At any rate, there's no harm in trying. So she began. Oh, Mouse, do you know the way out this hole? I'm very tired of swimming out here. Oh, Mouse! Alice thought it must be the right way of speaking to a mouse. She had never done this thing before, but she remembered having seen her brother's Latin grammar, a mouse of a mouse, to a mouse, oh mouse. The mouse looked at her rather inquisitively, and seemed to her to wink all its little eyes, but it said nothing. Perhaps it didn't understand English, thought Alice. I dare say it's a French mouse, come here with the William Conqueror. Forward of her knowledge of history, Alice had no clear notion how long ago anything had happened, so she began again. Which were the first 10 cents in the French lesson book? The mouse gave a sudden leap out of the water, and seemed to quiver all over the fright. Oh, I beg your pardon, cried Alice hastily, afraid it hurt the poor animal's feeling. I quite forgot you didn't like cats. Not like cats, cried the mouse, in a shrill, passionate voice. Would you like cats if you were me? Well, perhaps not, said Alice in a soothing tone. Don't be angry about this. And yet I wish I could show you our cat Dinah. I think you'd take to the fancy of cats if you only see her. She's such a great dear, quiet thing. Alice went on, half to herself, as she swam lazily about in the pool, and she sits purring so nicely by the fire, licking her paws and washing her face. And she is such a nice thing to nurse, and she's the capital one for catching mice. Oh, I beg your pardon, cried Alice again, and this time the mouse was bristling all over, and she felt certain it must be really offended. We won't talk about her any more, if you'd rather not. We indeed, cried the mouse, who was trembling down the end of his tail, as if I would talk about such a subject. Our families always hated cats. Nasty, low, vulgar things. Don't let me hear that name again. I won't indeed, said Alice, in a great hurry to change the subject of conversations. Are you, fond of dogs? The mouse did not answer, so Alice went on eagerly. There's such a nice little dog near our house, and I was like to show you. A light bright-eyed terrier, with such a long, curly brown hair. And it will fetch things when you grow them. It'll sit up and beg for its dinner, and all sort of things. I can remember half of them, and it belongs to a farmer. He said it's so useful. It was 100 pounds. He said it killed all the rats, and... Oh my God, cried Alice in a sorrowful tone. I'm afraid I have offended it again. For the mouse was swimming away from her as hard as it could go, and made quite a commotion on the pool as it went. She called softly after it, Mouses dear, do come back again. We won't talk about cats or dogs either if you don't like them. When the mouse heard it, it turned around and swam slowly back to her. Its face was quite pale with passion, Alice thought, and it said in a low, trembling voice, "Let's get us to the shore, and then I'll tell you my history, and you'll understand why I hate cats and dogs." It's a high time to go, for the pool was getting quite crowded with the birds and animals that had fallen into it. It was a duck and a doodle, a lorry and an eaglet, and several other curious creatures. Alice led the way, and the whole party swam to the shore.